Hello, everyone, and welcome to another elite episode of the Get Authentic with Marques show. I'm your host, Marques Ogden. On today's episode, we are joined by Miss Jan Jones. But before we bring up Jan to the stage, I want to thank one of our amazing sponsors, Carpa Diem Law Firm. Here's something most entrepreneurs don't think about until it's too late. Is your business name legally protected? Can someone else trademark it tomorrow and force you to rebrand everything you've built? That's where Ilona Anderson comes in. She's the founder of Carpe Diem Law Firm, and she helps authentic entrepreneurs protect their brands and their businesses so you can focus on growth, not legal disasters. Ilona specializes in trademark registration to lock down your brand, employee handbooks to protect you from lawsuits, and contracts that actually work in your favor. Whether you're bootstrapping your first startup or scaling a seven-figure company, she's got you covered nationwide. Don't wait till someone steals your name or an employee sues you. Visit carpediemlawfirm.com, CarpediemLawFirm.com, or connect with Ilona on LinkedIn. Protects your business, protects your future. Now, here she is, Jan. How you doing today, Jan?
Hey Marcus, I'm great. I'm so happy to be
Good. And
here.
you have my favorite color on, which is red. So it's already a huge plus. Nice job, young lady. First question, Jan.
You?
What does the word authentic slash authenticity mean to you?
Oh my goodness. Authenticity can mean so many things, but I guess really what stands out for me is knowing who you are and building the legacy that you really want to build, leaving your mark on this earth and with people. I like to think legacy is not what you leave for people, but it's what you leave in people. So it's living a life. Authenticity for me is living a life that people are not impressed by, but they're impacted by.
I love that last part. Live a life that people are inspired by, impacted by, not impressed by. Be someone that gives people information, wisdom that is imparted onto or into them, not trying to, wow them or blow them away with like this fancy car, this fancy this or this fancy that. And so I love this, Jan, because if more people focused on this, I believe we have a much better society. So, anyway, Jan, please tell us more about yourself, your backstory, and what you're doing currently now.
All right. How much time have you got? No, I'm just kidding.
I
I'm gonna I'm gonna try to nutshell my story. But I am from Birmingham, Alabama, born and raised, graduated from the University of Alabama. Roll Tide. Um, but my story really started when I was just a kid. At 8 years old, I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. There was no family history whatsoever. They said a virus attacked my pancreas and completely shut it down. So from that day forward, I was an insulin dependent type 1 diabetic, but really from an early age. I just had the mindset that I was not going to be defined by that disease. So you really rarely heard me say that I was a type 1 diabetic. What I would say is I had type 1 diabetes because I'm Jan, I'm so much more than just a disease, right? So I went on and lived my life, and I was into everything. I will not bore you with the details, but I think back on my mom and dad, and I'm like, wow, they really let me spread my wings and fly even at a young age. And I would enter anything and everything I could enter, whether it was some contest, an oratorical competition. I did theater, of course. I was a cheerleader and did everything at church, and I just loved doing things and enjoying life and meeting new people. But there was always a uh, competitive component to what I was doing. So you had to try out, you had to audition, you had to compete for whatever it was. And in my mind, I always thought, well, somebody's got to win it. And if I work hard enough, then maybe that can be me. And that mindset really did take me to places that I am so grateful for. But as I got older, the disease really started having major effects on my health.
Mm,
So
mm,
I have severe neuropathy in my limbs. I've had major eye surgeries,
mm,
wounds that wouldn't heal, almost lost a foot 1 year. Every single thing that I have suffered has been a direct result of the type 1 diabetes. But
mm,
I always thought, well, I'm going to come through it, right? It never entered my mind that I wouldn't have a positive outcome, even with all the complications. And then one day at a routine doctor's visit, he looked at me kind of in shock himself and he said, Jan, you're in total renal failure and you needed a transplant yesterday. Now, I'm going to be honest, like organ failure and transplant, these things were not in my vocabulary. They weren't on
sure.
my radar at all. So here I was really facing my own mortality square in the face. So, going through that journey, going through evaluations, knowing I did not have much time, trying to get on multiple wait lists. And I know we all experience waiting, and it's this terrible in betweenness, right? It's like someone hit pause on my life. I was growing very sick, very ill. And really, there were nights that I was afraid to fall asleep because I was afraid that I wouldn't wake up the next morning. I was
Mm,
that sick. And then one day I did get the call and they had a match, and I became a double organ transplant recipient. Not only did I get a kidney that saved my life, but I also received a pancreas. So I have a pancreas that now produces insulin. As long as my organs continue to work, I am no longer suffering from type 1 diabetes, that incurable, chronic, deadly disease that put me into renal failure in the first place. It's been complete miracle healing because of my transplant.
So basically, you had type 1 diabetes, and as a result of you getting the surgery, now having a new pancreas and now a new kidney, you no longer have diabetes. Am I saying that correct?
You are saying that correct. And it's
Wow.
it's a miracle because there's no cure for type 1. It's different than type 2 diabetes, right?
Right, right.
So yeah, that's exactly, you've got it right.
Wow. So let's talk about that. What if your doctor said, is that normal, Jan, when someone gets a new pancreas or a new kidney that by the grace of God or by the grace of the new organ, they don't have that horrible disease anymore? Is that normal? Or is that something that's kind of happened with you and was a gift from God? Like tell us more about that. I didn't realize if you had that because it's interesting. I was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars and loved playing for the Jaguars, loved playing for the organization. One of my teammates who was drafted with me, Brandon Green, out of Rice University, University of Rice, was in Houston, Texas. Brandon had, I believe, type 1 diabetes. And he would always take his insulin, things like that before practice and gain. Like, he was a great player, too. Great energy, very off the edge, great guy. But I remember him having to go through getting his shots before practices, watching his insulin, all that kind of stuff. So, is it normal, Jan, when you get new organs that goes away? Please tell us more.
To receive a new pancreas, yes, it would be normal that if the pancreas is functioning correctly, it is then producing that insulin that your teammate and that I grew up since I was 8 years old, having to take the insulin injections. And then eventually I wore an insulin pump, to get the
Mm,
insulin I needed all day, where someone who does not have type 1 diabetes, their pancreas produces what they need when they need it. So, with the new pancreas, which I will add, it is a very rare organ to be transplanted. I myself didn't even know they did that. But when you receive a pancreas, it would be normal to no longer have to rely on pumps and injections to get the insulin that you need, because now your body has got the organ that actually works. So, because of the type 1 diabetes, I lost complete function of my kidneys, which can happen. And now I have a new kidney and a new pancreas, because during the evaluation process, they said, well, you're actually a good candidate for both of these organs, and you are spot on. All of this is by the grace of God. He uses healthcare in such a mighty, mighty way. And so, yeah, it would be normal for you, if you receive a pancreas, to no longer need all of that insulin that we've been doing. And I mean, here's another great thing. I can eat whatever I want to eat now. Like, I've never been able to do that, because I don't have to monitor all the glucose and all that, because my pancreas is actually doing it for me now.
See, ladies and gentlemen, this is fantastic. Again, this shows how mindset and focus and just living your life to the best of your ability. You heard Jan say it best. When she was going through this her entire life, she was someone that had the issue. She wasn't a diabetic, she just had the diabetes. So she was not saying it was the way of her life. She was saying, unfortunately, she had this horrible disease. And then when it came time to get a new organ, she was able to get not just one, but two organs, a new pancreas, a new kidney. And now she's living her life where she's having a lot more fun. She's able to do what she wants to do. She can eat what she wants to eat. And it's been a total gift from God. And here's the great thing. Jan has such a positive outlook on life and doing things, and that's exactly what it's all about. It's about our ability to live life and have the type of disposition that tells us, yes, when things happen, it doesn't mean it's going to have to last forever. I tell all the time, pain, suffering, hardship, adversity doesn't last forever. I tell people we have to focus on the future. And when we do that, right, Jan, it allows us to focus on what we want, which is a much better outcome if we're at that time, unfortunately, stuck in the mud or having a hardship. Again, being stuck in the mud, the best way to get out of it is to focus on the future. So,
Oh,
Jan,
yeah.
tell us more about what you're doing now. So you've had two organs, transplanted into you. So
Yeah.
you've had two double major organ surgery. You're doing fantastic. What are you doing now with your career, with your work? How are you giving back after this amazing, rebirth of life you've been given through
Yeah.
your two new organs?
Yeah. So what I do is I am a professional speaker. So I speak at a lot of events and conferences and churches, but I'm also an organizational development consultant. So I
Mhm.
carry a lot of certifications as far as helping leaders and employees create the cultures that they really enjoy showing up to contribute. And that is definitely something that I hope that I can instill in people. Is number one, our mindset really does matter in everything in life, because we all have our journey, we all have our struggles. And if you can look at, sometimes the setback can actually be the set up. And I love how you just shared, we need to be looking forward. I like to joke, in our car, that's why our rear view mirror is so small, because we need to know what's back there, right? We need to learn from what's behind us. But our windshields are so large because we need to be looking forward at where we're going. So, the way that I love to give back is obviously to share my story, share my testimony, instill hope in people, equip people with skills and knowledge that help them really reach their fullest potential. I am a Gallup certified strengths coach, so I like to give people an assessment, help them find out what their natural talents are, but then, more importantly, be intentional about those natural gifts that we have. I help people with crucial conversations and emotional intelligence and developing that outward mindset that is so vital in really enjoying this good life, but understanding that it's precious and that it's a gift. So, anytime I can coach people or speak to people or help leaders be the best leader that they can be, that's what my career is all about. My company is called JJ Motivate. And so I just, my greatest joy comes from seeing other people reach their potential and have those light bulbs go off like, wow, I really am something. I have something to offer, and I add value to this world because every single person matters.
Ladies and gentlemen, so I hope you got from that last segment that it's so important for us to have the mindset that allows us to push through challenges and adversity and obstacles when they come. We have to have the belief in ourselves that we are good enough, that we do deserve happiness, fulfillment, joy. And if things are going on in our life that are hard, and Jay said so eloquently, we all have struggles. We all have hardships. We all have challenges that we, go through or have to work through in order to make us who we are. And I love what you said about the rear view mirror is small compared to our windshield, right? It's important to know who you are and where you came from, but if all you're focusing on is who you are or who you were, better yet, then at that moment, who you were, you're no longer that person. So for a long time, when I lost my company and went bankrupt, right, Jan, and I moved to Raleigh, for a good couple of years, I was still thinking of myself as a former NFL athlete, like who I was. And unfortunately, who I was no longer ever going to become again who I am. And I struggled for a long time to be able to move on from that. But once I did, life got a lot better. So let me ask you a question, Jan. So when people hire you to come in to speak, right? What is the main challenge or problem that they hire you for? And what is the solution that you offer to that main problem that they ask you to come in and help them to resolve?
It's really interesting when and it depends on the engagement,
Mhm,
right? I
mhm,
mean, sometimes it really is an engagement to just share my story and
mhm.
instill hope and hopefully inspire people. Something I remind myself and others all the time is that hope really is the only emotion that is stronger than fear. And so I
Mm,
speak a lot about that, but professionally, the topic that really comes up the most, and to me, this is the foundation of success and effectiveness, and it's communication. I mean, it doesn't matter how incredible technology is, and it is, but we have all got to be able to communicate. We've got to be able to work through conflict. We've got to be able to communicate in a way that we're understanding and we're not judging. And that can be really difficult in today's climate and, work environments, family environments, friends, circles. I mean, we all have a different perspective. And so communication is key to our relationships because at the end of the day, a culture is about relationship. And so we cannot have relationships if we don't have communication, trust, understanding, and mutual respect and love for one another. So I like to tell people you got to get curious, not furious, and really try to understand people, but equipping them with how to have our own self awareness when we are having emotions that are involved in any kind of interaction, especially one where there might be some opposing opinions, because that's where conflict can brew. So we've got to have our own self awareness and really figure out, okay, so what was my part in this? And that's hard to do in the middle of a conflict. But if we can self manage like that, and then we can turn outward and really understand where someone is coming from. But I do want to remind people that understanding doesn't mean that we always agree with them. So, and that is okay as long as we're able to talk respectfully. But I would say communication is definitely a foundational topic that comes up a lot.
Yeah, Jan, I really like that because communication is such an important item. I don't care what business you're in, what industry you're in, what job you have, in a personal relationship, friend relationship. If you can't communicate with people, then it doesn't make a hill of beans difference because the people can't understand you, then they're not going to be able to apply what you are saying. If people can't process or understand what you're communicating, it doesn't matter what you're saying. That's my next question, business, stuff like that. And I love this, right? And you talk about, people bring you in to speak and your story's inspired, and I can totally see why. And I love this. I always say communication is not how we say something. Communication is how it is understood and received by the individual we are speaking to. If the person that we are speaking to can't understand us, then they can't apply what we're asking them to do. If they can't do that, it's like we never even had the conversation.
Yep.
So my question is, Jan, how do you teach leaders, people that are in like churches, they hear your amazing speech either through your inspirational story, your communication piece? Let's focus on that piece of the communication from like personal and on professional, right? How do you help people improve communication skills so they could be understood by who they are speaking to?
That is such a great question. And I mean, it comes up a lot. One of the reasons why people often are not understanding what you're saying is just like anybody. I mean, you, me, anyone listening, we often are listening just to respond. We've already got our answer in our mind. Maybe there's history with this person, and we're like, oh, here they come again. I know what they're going to say. I know exactly what I'm going to tell them, right? And so, if we can learn how to really listen with empathy, and that really is just to understand, but also part of the reason people are not receiving our message is in some way they don't feel safe to hear it. And I don't mean they feel like they're about to be like physically in danger. I just mean mentally or emotionally, there could be a lot of reasons why they don't feel safe. Maybe they've got a lot of doubt in themselves, but they don't feel like they can tell you that. They've got questions about the topic, but they're too embarrassed to ask. Or maybe they've got a little ego they're bringing to the table. They don't want to admit that they need your advice or they need your guidance. So they don't feel safe, right? And so it's up to us to learn how to make them feel safe. And to make them feel safe is not to just keep driving the point with this developmental feedback or whatever it is we're trying to tell them. What we need to do is kind of step away from what we're trying to communicate and figure out what it is that made them not receive it. Maybe it is a little so low self-esteem. Maybe they just need a little extra support. Maybe they do need empathy. Maybe they've got a distraction and you don't even know what that is because you're too busy trying to force another topic. So when we can just spend a little extra time trying to figure out what the barrier is, then we can move back into what the topic at hand was, and they will be more open to not only hearing what you're saying, but actually participating in the dialogue.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, here's a key aspect. If you're speaking to someone and you're trying to have a conversation, but that person doesn't feel safe enough, secure enough, confident enough, right? confident enough, they're not going to engage. They're going to sit there and they're going to look like they're listening. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but they're not going to respond and have dialogue or interaction or conversation with you if they feel that all you're going to do is listen to respond, not listen to understand. There's a huge, this I tell you all the time, listen to understand.
Yep.
Don't listen to respond. Because if you listen to respond, what that means is you're in true form or in reality or being authentic. You're not even listening. You're just thinking in your head of how you want to respond. And
Yep.
that's not a good place to be. So, Jan, how can our global audience get in touch with you? They want to book you for a keynote speech. If they're interested in hearing your story, if they're interested in your coaching, how can our global audience connect and or get in touch with you?
Well, my website is www.jjmotivate.com. You can also email me at jan@jjmotivate.com. I am on LinkedIn and Facebook, so I would love for people out there to connect with me and reach out anytime.
I love it. I took that down. We'll have that information in the show notes. Phenomenal interview, Jan. Great story. I learned something new about if you get new organs, then diseases that you have that are horrible or just horrific can go away, which is very encouraging, which I had no idea about until we just had this amazing conversation. Want to thank one of our amazing sponsors, Carpa Diem Law Firm, owned by Ilona Anderson in South Florida. If you have a trademark question or want to get your business or your idea trademarked, she is your woman. Again, you can go to Carpa Diem Law Firm or you can reach out to her on LinkedIn. ILONAANDERSON, Ilona Anderson. And the authentic tip of this great interview in life, take advantage of every opportunity that comes your way and have gratitude for every single day you are above ground. Every day above ground is a gift. And be appreciative, have gratitude, and be grateful. And don't have an ego. Don't think you're owed something. Be grateful for what you have. Because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, everybody should just be grateful and appreciative for what they have. Again, my name is Marques Ogden. I am the host of the Get Authentic with Marques show. Thanks for tuning in. Have a fantastic day.